I'm moving along gradually, and I have a good idea. I don't want to give too much secrets away about how the book is going to turn out, but it's a masterpiece.
Good.
Yeah,
Excited to read it.
Me too.
yeah. um, it's just I do a lot of uh, one-on-one sessions with students, and I started identifying so many things about the mind. Of which, when it came to the chapter of about the mind, um, it I realized not a lot of people write about the mind
Mm.
on even on YouTube. They talk about consciousness,
Yeah.
but no one really goes deep into the mechanics of the mind. So then I sat there and I was like, kind of like some of these things require such deep thoughts. Uh, and so because of the one-on-one because of the one-on-one sessions, it gave so much insight. For example, we have evolved as humans to be so intelligent that we want to know so many things. The intelligence just doesn't serve us the way that it used to. Life is simple. Life is supposed to be simple. Um, and even in Japan too, I came across the culture of Japan where they're like, um, well, we don't want to get married anymore. We don't want to establish a family anymore. Then the reporter asked the gal, "Well, don't you want to have sex?" And she goes, "Yeah, but I just don't want to get tangled with anyone." See, that's just a regular statement to normal people to listen to. But for someone like me who pays close attention to what she's trying to say is that the word tangle, what we're doing here in Buddhism is untangling the tangle.
Right.
And she doesn't want to get attached to anyone. And it's very complicated now, getting involved in a relationship, trying to fulfill that first and foremost physical need, and then whatever it leads to, connection and stuff like that. So my point is that we have evolved as humans very intelligently, meaning we have cars that fly now. But when it comes to the soft skills, we haven't evolved in that.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and so therefore, when people read the book, they're gonna understand so much about the mind. So it's gonna be a one of a kind book. As far as I can remember, all the books that I have read, and I'm also and there's actually another teacher from another tradition that wrote about the mind, but I was only able to capture like a couple of pages before he goes into his practice, but his very confusing practice. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of challenges in the first couple of chapters because it's really hard, and then I'm pretty sure someone's gonna come back and be like, "Can you cite this? Can you cite that?" So I'm trying to do my best in citing the sources, but most of it comes from the insight. Most of it comes from the one-on-ones
That's
theory.
cool that it comes from your personal experience.
Yeah, yeah. But it's just it's amazing. I mean, I'm so blessed to have the ability to pay close attention to everything unfolding in a student's mind. Literally, how their mind jumps, just the hell or heaven that they have created in their mind, and to take special notes of that. It really takes, you gotta be a very particular teacher to notice these things about people. If I it's just a very different, it's like we're not supposed to be attached to any student. So I don't get attached to my students, but I remember their stories and I remember why they behave that way.
Right.
So very complex. Don't be a monk. Okay, so let us pay homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. We pay homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened Buddha. You notice that I don't have my little bell gong thing. I tend to forget that 90% of the time. Stephen is in New York right now, spending time with family for the Thanksgiving holiday. So no Stephen today. Let me see, what else did I forget last week that I reflected this week for this week's talk? No, I forgot anything. I think it was a very comprehensive. I tend to beat myself up, especially giving the precepts and going over the refuge and just the basics of it, because it's so important. It sets the tone. But you guys come every Sunday, so even if I did forget something, I always update the next Sunday. So tell me what you guys have done over the week in regards to your assignment.
A ton of reading and writing. A ton.
Like me, just like us, right? Us,
Yeah.
that makes us. Because everything that I'm talking about, I have to go back to it and I have to, retake my notes and for citations. So
Yeah. So
that makes all three of us.
I think we kind of did it opposite. So we did our own independent studying because we only have the one book. So
The one CBT book?
yeah. So while I was doing CBT, she was doing the Third Noble Truth, and then when she was doing the CBT, I was doing the Third Noble Truth. So we might have a little bit different sources, which is a good thing, not a bad thing. We might have the same ones. I don't know. We didn't really compare too many notes on that. But yeah, I went back to the beginning.
Hold on 1 second. The two young students that were here, that were assigned, they came from Colorado. They came down here to study with me. You remember those guys?
Manny and
They were out there, and they did the CBT together. And I was like, "Did you guys take notes?" And they're like, "We both took notes together." They were trying to cheat. They thought I didn't. They thought I didn't know about it. And I was like, "No, that's why you both have two separate books and two separate." They were trying to be so slick about it. Oh man! So when I when I hear people swap back and forth, it reminds me of these people. Again, their intelligence does not serve them.
right.
They're very smart, but then they get themselves into trouble by trying to cheat their way around the CBT thing. Okay, go ahead.
So for me, I went back to the beginning because the first. So I read like the first couple chapters multiple times,
Mm-hmm.
like multiple times, but I didn't take notes on it prior. I was just reading it. So I went back to the beginning again, and I started over from the beginning, and took a lot of notes on it. But the most, I'd say that the things that stood out most to me, and I mean it was like cramming for an exam over the last week, just trying to get as much information as I could down to continue to go over and read my Cliff Notes version of everything. But I mean, the stuff I've always, I remembered prior was just like, the things that get us in trouble in our mind, like mind reading or fortune telling, or just kind of setting ourselves up for emotional failure, projecting something that may not end up happening at all, that's only going on in our mind. So those are some of the things that I read over again, and one of the things that I liked was, there's a couple things I starred here. Like you tend to mind read what you fear most. I really like that because it kind of puts it in perspective for me. It's like, yeah, you're right, when I'm thinking about something that I have no data on other than a reaction from an individual, she doesn't text me back when she's working, or I'm working or whatever. I used to, and this is a while back, probably like a year ago, where I'll be like, what the heck, what's going on? Is she thinking did I do something wrong? Start feeling guilty for things I didn't do? Like, it was just the weirdest thing. And I realized that it's a common trait amongst a lot of people that do that. They feel that way. So when I read that, it was like, you know what, I used to do that. And I've changed a lot of my behavioral patterns, and a lot of it, I just let go of a lot of stuff. And so those help, but those are little things that kind of help me out. Another thing I started was accept that they're complex and ever changing. Strive to stop labeling yourself, the world, and others around you, which I still do. I mean, I did it today. So it's kind of weird for me when it's like I see these random things. I'm like, I do that all the time, and I'm like, oh, it is what it is. It's like that place. It's like that place got my order wrong last time, and they were rude last time. I don't want to go there. It's like that was last time. Let's try it again, and it was great this time. Yeah, when you label a person or aspect of the world in a global way, like it's all bad, it's all good, whatever the case is, and pertaining to a specific subject, you exclude potential for change and improvement. So I like that, because we can all change at any given point. We can always improve ourselves. It's something that I've always held true to my heart, and that you've almost kind of like reinforced. A couple other things I wanted to point out. The ABC form, I made a copy of that.
Did you do it?
I didn't fill one out yet. I didn't really have any moments where I was thinking about anything that was triggering me. So I didn't fill that out yet. I'm sure I could dive into my mind and find certain things that bother me. There's that, so I have that, which is going to be a project for me over the next week, is kind of exploring that more. Then I copied down how to, the more in-depth ABC form too. And then this one that I start too. The importance or meaning you attach to those thoughts, whatever thoughts they may be, is what causes you the problem. Whether it be a good meaning or a bad meaning. Either way, it's going to ultimately end up causing some sort of problem. Which kind of brings it back to impermanence. And then as I was getting through chapter 5, I noticed talked about being more mindful and like all that stuff. Techniques to deal with mindfulness, meditation, depression, stress, chronic pain, being present, which is one of the things that I try to practice most, is looking at everything through a fresh set of eyes. I do it all the time at work. I'm on the 3rd floor of my building, so I'll just walk over. I have a wireless headset, so while I'm waiting for a call to come through, I'll walk over to one of the windows, which is not too far from me. And I'll just stare out the window, looking at the clouds, and the thing that gets me every time is like, wow, these clouds, how awesome. It's so silly to me sometimes, but I love it. It's like it's never going to look the same way ever again. I'm never going to be able to perceive this view exactly how I'm viewing it right now. The clouds will never be the same. The painting will always be different. And that always kind of brings me back to presence, and I'm like, whoa. I'm just like, how awesome. So that was kind of where I got to. I got up to the second, haven't started it yet, but the second section of the book. So that was that for the CBT. And then I guess you want to go over your CBT stuff?
Sure.
And even if you, it sounds familiar to his, it's okay.
Okay.
So yeah, I just wanted to see what you guys paid attention to.
Okay.
Yeah.
In chapter 3, it was basically learning how to distinguish, like, the triggering event to, like, the consequences and beliefs and thinking errors. I didn't get the chance to do it either. I really wrote down what to do because I want to carry this around, so if I don't have the book, I can do it. And then chapter 4 was about behavioral experiments to test the validity of a thought or belief that you hold about yourself, other people, or the world. And the ways to test your predictions was to like describe the problem, formulate your predictions, execute an experiment, and examine the results to make sure that they're valid. chapter 5, was about how you manage your thoughts and attention. So how to redirect your attention away from yourself when you start having really negative thoughts. So I kind of did a little experiment with you for that when you were talking about the call that you had, and I was putting my attention in different places to see how I could hold more memory and attentiveness to what he was saying.
And then you went back and recapped what I said as well.
Yeah,
which
so
is part of that training.
Yeah. And that's task concentration, I believe it's called. It helps when you have anxiety, so you can concentrate better. And then it was, that's the concentration exercise for listening. And there's other, I didn't write down what the other ones were, but it's for listening and like talking yourself actually and stuff. And then it was another thing, major theme in that chapter was becoming more mindful. It's like being present, letting your thoughts pass by, discerning when not to listen to yourself, and incorporating mindful tasks like throughout the entire day through eating and walking and everything like that. And then chapter 6 was
You read all the way to chapter 6?
Yeah. Chapter 6 was to distinguish between unhealthy negative emotions and healthy negative emotions. So for that chapter, I wrote down emotive terminology, which is emotional terminology. So there's angry, anxious, ashamed, disappointed, disgusted, embarrassed, envious, guilty, hurt, jealous, and sad. And there's the action of emotion, which is like a whole system that activates whenever you feel a certain emotion. So if I have a thought or an image that is unsettling, I'll have a physiological change in sensation. I'll act a certain way, and my memory and attention, it all plays a part. And then there was something about comparing the healthy and unhealthy emotions, and I wrote down one example, which was anxiety, which is the unhealthy emotion, and then concern, which is the healthy, and they both are recognizing a threat or danger, which is the theme of the emotion. And when it's unhealthy, when you're perceiving threat or danger, it's rigid and extreme, and when it's healthy, it's flexible. So when it's unhealthy, you overestimate the threat, you monitor the threat or danger excessively, and usually when that happens, you seek reassurance and you numb that anxiety with drugs and alcohol. But when it's a healthy emotion towards a threat or danger, you view the threat realistically, and you don't see a threat where one doesn't exist. So you face up to the threat and deal with that threat constructively instead of like numbing yourself out and stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much what I got for that.
So stop at chapter 7?
Yeah.
7?
So you're ahead of me. I'm a slow reader.
If you guys get hot, we have to fan too. Yeah, he's like, yes. the left one, and you have to hit that switch right there. These are like airplane fans.
Yeah, I remember one day it was turned all the way up, and it was like the building was about to take off. See this? Halfway.
Yeah, it's funny because it starts out really slow, and then it really gets to its true speed, and when you're like, oh, I didn't realize it was that sensitive.
Yeah.
Another thing I wrote down that I really liked out of that was, right here I wrote, you can use retraining your attention on the outside world to help interrupt yourself from engaging with the stream of negative thoughts that accompany depression or anxiety or what have you. And at first I was kind of confused by that because I always think, go back to your breath, go back to your breath, focus. It's the same thing. It's either that or focusing on the sound of that, or just something that's going to pull you out of that stream of thoughts where you kind of are following it down and it's snowballing and getting worse and worse and worse. So I like that a lot, that tip, to focus on one thing. It's like a 1 point in meditation almost, to stop your thoughts. I don't know, stopping your thoughts, to observe your thoughts. That was another thing I noticed in here as well, where I wrote it somewhere. It talked about observing your thoughts going by, like, I wrote it somewhere. I don't know where it is. The things that we talked about, like, kind of like you stand on the street and you just watch the cars go by, you're not trying to intervene. Watching them, or like a train at a train station, watching a river go by, and you're not going to stop your thoughts, but you don't have to follow them. And they'll, some of those strange, bad thoughts, weird thoughts that kind of like grotesque in a way, can pop into your head, and just, if you don't pay attention to it because it's not important, it'll just naturally go away. And I found it to be incredibly true. So, but that was the CBT, and then I need a new book. Third Noble Truth, The Extinction of Suffering.
Okay, so pause for a second.
Okay.
Well, we won't go to the Noble Truth yet.
Okay.
Just yet. Matter of fact, I am stuck on the Third Noble Truth in my writing, actually. And how it actually, the cheat sheet here really helped me out. It's like the third and the fourth intertwine with each other. By practicing the fourth, you will ding number 3. And number 3 is nirvana, the pursuit of nirvana. As I swear, my brain is just like. So let me comment on the CBT. So when, number 1, you both did a great job on it. Right? It's literally like music to my ear. When you guys walked in, you guys were hearing, you guys observed me, were listening to Pali. So when you guys are telling me about CBT, it's like music to my ear, And it's music to my ear was because, again, this was the one thing that literally liberated me. Not like full enlightenment, Buddhist sense, but it really, the chains were broken at 22 years old. When I finished the book, it was like, it was an epiphany. How could I not know this? I was like, the whole time, this was how my brain was tripping. And this book just literally broke all of the chains that imprisoned me in my own mind of hell, of blowing things out of proportion, of just all of these. I was just like, oh, I cannot believe they don't teach this. I was so angry. Don't teach this in school. So now when I go back to it, it's I see how useful it is. Furthermore, I'm also on chapter 5 in my book, and chapter 5 is the CBT. And I'm like, well, they want me to write a book because they want me to say something about what I know, and I'm like, this is in its simplest form. Likewise, so in college, my professor made me do a meta-analysis, and I was like, huh? And we had our primary textbook was this Santrock, Human Development by Santrock, the author. And our professor was like, well, this book is just a meta-analysis of, all of the theories. And slowly I was like, oh, so a meta-analysis is you just grab a bunch of theories and you just put it all in one book. And that's, in a nutshell, what human development is, or psychology is, or whatever the title or the subject is. And so I'm going through like the first noble truth, second noble truth, my own self-defeating thoughts was like, how are you gonna say it better than these guys? And I'm like, well, I can't because they've already found the words to say it. I don't. So I was like, so I started quoting it, and I literally took the sacred text, the first noble truth, and just I took it out of, and I just like paste it, and then and I'm like, you know what? I'm like, they're all gonna think I'm either a lazy monk or I don't know what I'm talking about reading the book. But it's so simple. It's straightforward, so simple. So somewhat towards you're gonna see like little different meta analysis in the book. Now, when it comes to the CBT, there's no other book that can say it better than what you all have.
Yeah.
So now, when I get back to my place, I actually have to reopen it in details and scan it again and for it, and then make my comparison online. But it's so simple, but yet people get themselves in so much trouble not following these principles. I also want to comment that when you don't do the exercises, I'm going to assume that there were no activating events in your life that triggers you to the point where you do or you don't need to write it down. It's simple, So in the other room behind y'all on the other side, you have seen that room, right? The counseling room. It's just got big couch, not a couch, but a big sofa, and then there's the therapist chair. So I use that room for one-on-one counseling. So if we find ourselves there, either as a couple or as individual, one day, any day, and you tell me your narrative, and I'll ask you, do you remember that formula? Or do you remember that form that you were supposed to fill out? Did you fill that out? Okay. I also want to expand on this, the formulation and the utilitarian aspect of it is that I am now counseling, and I have counseled multiple CBT trained therapists that do not trained CBT, LCSW, LMHCs. That's what this is what they do for a living. That have gotten themselves into trouble, not doing what they were trained to do. Literally, what they write, the books, the master's level book that professionals have, okay, I have to tell them to go back to the basics here. And the exact same questions I'm asking you is the same exact questions I'm asking these master's level therapists. So, therefore, again, back to the intelligence thing, but they think they got it figured out. They think that they can outsmart their own training or outsmart whatever. The question is, why are we here? I have for these therapists. And same with any students that goes through the CBT. So the exercises are very important, and just know that when things starting to hit the fan, you go back to you start dissecting and putting it all down so you can see it play out. Where just the chronological, sequential. How do we get from A, B, and then now we're acting out the way that we are?
Yes. I was gonna say, I did kind of use it. I didn't write it down though. It was about my weight. So I kind of can I kind of do one really quick?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I did it it helped me not get really upset that I've gained weight and stuff.
That makes both of us. I'm gaining weight too.
So, for the emotion I had was probably, I know what it is, like, anger towards myself in a way, because for a long time I was a certain weight and stuff, so, before, I guess this is like what I would do before, like just like a month ago before we started seeing you, I would cry about it. So it wasn't a really good feeling. What would activate it is looking in the mirror and then having a bunch of thoughts kind of like trickle down, saying that I'm not good enough, or it's really not so small thoughts. And so I guess that's like both the activating event and beliefs. So the thinking error was judging myself so harshly and having a model that I expected to live at and not expect stopping taking certain medications, you know, was gonna make me gain weight, you know, and what can I do about changing that instead of crying about it? There's a way to change that.
Right.
So, and that's actually what I've been doing. I've been exercising, so I'm changing that. I don't know if that's a good way to break that down, but that's kind of how I've done it.
In Buddhism, when it comes to weight, is that the true nature of the human body is that it changes, and metabolism and age and all of these varying factors. So of course, the first thing is that we take it personal and we personalize it, you know, when we get angry at our body. So I mean, so it makes both of us, the student and the teacher who's gaining weight. And I realize I'm 35. You know, your body changes at 35. You have to work out a little bit more and keep yourself in check. Uh, and so that's why it's so important in mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of impermanence. When we later on, you know, as we move through this, and you guys study the four foundations of mindfulness, you guys realize when we study about the body and in its aspect, it just is the way that it is. So like I said, every time when I give a talk, I said, use the best available science when it comes to eating right, healthy, the best available science in studying happiness, the best available science in weight loss. And when I said the best available science, you are to follow the recommendations and guidelines that they're telling you, according to research. So you have to exercise intelligence and investigative mindset so that you're like, oh, okay, and then you do exactly what is being recommended. And once you've done the best that you possibly can, and you rule out everything, and you realize, well, this is just my body changing. I'm eating less, or I'm eating more, or it's requiring, or it's like a baby. Our body's like this never-ending baby that requires, you know, brushing of the teeth and pooping and peeing and sleeping and it's like the maintenance of one's body is no different than the maintenance of one's vehicle. Oil change and tires get worn out and axles and nuts, bolts and screws, or you know, it's just falling apart. You know, so that way we don't beat ourselves up needlessly and unnecessarily, and we see the true nature for what it is. You know, or some people have certain medical conditions where all of their teeth falls off, for example. That does happen. Or, you know, changes in skin, or certain skin conditions and stuff like that. Or hair falling off at like 20 years old, all the hair falling off. And they get really angry, like, what is wrong with me? Until you get diagnosis, you realize that we are all subject to old age, disease, decay, and subsequent death. So the disease part falls under that. So had you known that, you already expect it coming, you know, and then you redirect your mind to, well, okay, well, my hair fell off because of that diagnosis, and it must be my karma. You know what I mean? So that's why it's important to have the foundations of the noble truths in your mind when these things happen to you in life. And as we cycle through the teachings and the practice of the non-self, that's when we don't personalize, and we just see directly its true nature of the human body, true nature of whatever it is that's not going well. So I'm glad you made that observation. CBT will help you through that too. Weight loss, body image, body dysmorphic disorder. It's amazing what CBT can do. Okay, so you got to chapter 4 in CBT,
Chapter 5.
5 and 7. Okay, you guys are moving along quick actually, quite
Yeah.
fairly quick. It's only been like 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Um,
It's good though.
it's Yeah, you guys are working adults. I mean, when I was 22 and I picked up the book, I was working 2 jobs also. Uh, yeah, you just have to. I mean, I just talked my whole life and just prioritized the book. It was like the Bible.
Yeah.
It was it. But thank goodness it's easy to read.
Yeah.
Thank goodness that they simplified it, because if you read the master's level, like for professionals, you'd be like, what's happening here? Really, what's happening? Um, Same thing with like research, um, just peer review journals. You read it, you're like, what? Like no one can really understand it unless you have a master's degree. Uh, and it's no wonder why like nobody veers towards any professors. It's so hard to find a professor that can just speak English where we can understand in simplest form. Uh, but you guys are moving along quite fairly quickly. Steven's also going to do the CBT too. Just because he's an assistant doesn't mean he follows along with what everyone else is doing until crap hits the fan in their own lives, and they're to return back to the basics also too. Um, so, so now we are due to review. Did we go through the second Noble Truth last week?
Yeah.
We did, okay. Okay, so enlighten me with the third Noble Truth.
Well, as you said, it's all intertwined. Even the third noble truth is intertwined with the second one. They build off of each other. It's the cessation of suffering, the ceasing of suffering. Yep. As per your request of studying thoroughly, multiple sources. I mean, it's the extinction of suffering. What is suffering? Suffering is craving, attachment to everything. And when that vanishes, when we extinguish the suffering, that's when, I made quick notes here. It's the extinction of all craving, detachment from desire, things that we find delightful and pleasurable, to regard things that we find delightful, pleasurable, things that we enjoy or love as impermanent. That would be the extinction of suffering, basically observing something, knowing, as you said just a moment ago, understanding the true nature of reality. If our hair is going to fall out, we know it's going to fall out one day, we're not attached to that, then it's not going to bother us. Release from sensual craving, craving for existence, to escape samsara, dependent extinction of all phenomena, to stop desires, to stop desire stops clinging, which stops karmic rebirth, which stops decay and death, which is sorrow, grief, suffering, etc. Then leads to the extinction of all suffering. So it's basically breaking the chain, and it all starts with stopping the desire. So it's kind of one of those things where it's one thing leads to another, which I saw on, because we used a sacred text. Again, I don't know exactly which sources that Julia used, but I used a sacred text. I used Nirvana, BuddhaNet.net, and there was something that I thought how it was kind of like the chain of events, where it was talked about the prerequisites, and it ran all the way back. Ignorance is the prerequisite to all. So fabrications have ignorance as the prerequisite, consciousness as fabrications is the prerequisite, and so on and so forth. And I mean, there's a whole list of things, and I was reading that and just kind of like doing the chain, called the chain of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So I had all that written down.
Is it the 12 links?
Um, I don't know if it was, I didn't see it was referred to that,
Okay.
but I like that. What's the 12 links?
The dependent origination.
Oh, yeah, so I guess that is what it is. I just didn't see it as that. And the chain of suffering, I thought that was my own thing, apparently it's not. But yeah, so clean has craving, and so on and so forth. As you know, it just goes all the way down, and I really like that because it goes from basically ignorance in every step that it takes, all the way to like knowledge of the end, knowledge of ending has release as its prerequisite. And I had some of these additional sources, and I'm not really too sure what they were. They were listed here underneath it, but it's like one was ITI 90, MN 64, I think it was scriptures or something like that. SN 1223.
Samyutta Nikaya. Yeah, they cited the in the middle length long kindred sayings, discourses. Yeah, those are our original texts.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 5 books.
And then I went to, there was one called, I don't know if this is, I got this link from BuddhaNet, or excuse me, Access to Insight. It was buddhagroup.com, and it kind of dumped things down a little bit easier. And it was, the Buddha spent 6 years contemplating the nature of suffering by eliminating hatred and ignorance from our lives, by freeing ourselves from any kind of attachment and craving. Stop clinging to people, ideas, things. I mean, it's just to let go of everything.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
And I kind of like this too. I wrote down, it was like the break the chain of rebirth. 5 Kanda process, and it was talking about like basically karma, or craving is like fuel for the fire, and karmic rebirth is the fire itself. So once we can stop the craving in every form, then we're going to be able to stop that. And I did kind of have a question. So, and I guess this refers to the nirvana aspect, because it says that when we can finally stop all craving, that's when we can achieve nirvana, like this lifetime. Like it's achievable. It'd be achievable in a second if I had that true, deep, penetrating understanding that everything was just let go. However it would happen. I understand the words, I understand the meaning of it, and it's not penetrated my deepest sense of being. So, but I think in those moments where I look at the sky and I'm like, whoa, and I'm just completely present, I think in those moments I'm detached. That's kind of what I'm experiencing. But one of the things I did have a question about is, let's see here. So I'll jump down to it. So in Arahat, the saint, that's once we've let go of all detachment, all desire, and found ultimate peace, nirvana, in our living life. Once the body passes away, there's no more rebirth, right? And then we continue basically to...
You hang out in the cool kids club.
Yeah.
And you study until you become a Buddha.
Right, okay, that's what I was thinking.
That's what I'm guessing. Because it's too far for us to even grasp that concept if we haven't gone through. You just won't know. And quite frankly, not coming back is a wonderful thing.
Right.
It's like a dream, and you don't like wake up from the dream. You just continue to just keep on dreaming. The streams of consciousness continues. My teacher said that whatever knowledge you accumulate will carry on with you. And again, every Buddha was an Arahant, not every Arahant becomes a Buddha. So therefore, I tell everyone, I pump everybody up, and I say, look, you should try to join the Cool Kids Club. because once you get there, you know, y'all will probably hang out, and everyone there's a saint, saints among saints. Um, it's a matter of fact, you know, in the Catholic world, they have the saints of Latter Day Saints, or the celebration of the saints. It's just that when you reflect, like I told you guys, um, hell is empty and they're all here. And if you look at what's going on with all the shootings and stuff like that, um, it's you got to ask yourself, wow, look at what. Let me expand on this also too, since you read about letting go of ideas and concepts and opinions. So right now, in front of me is TikTok, which is this big old iPad here, and everyone's asking all sorts of questions and stuff like that. Wise students would hold their questions and just listen and ask what's going on here. Buddhists, we observe the world as expert observers and witness. And we start getting ourselves in trouble when we attach on the concepts and idea. What being Democrat is, and being Republican is. I don't like this person because, then we get all wrapped up hell. And then we've seen how people get really passionate about it to the point where they jump the Capitol building. You have active police officers who leave their state to jump the Capitol building. Furthermore, when all this was unfolding, there were two lawyers in New York, bright, intelligent, young lawyers that graduated from Ivy League law school, threw Molotov cocktails at police officers. The young gal received 15 months a couple days ago. A lawyer who took an oath. That is the problem of clinging on to ideas and concepts. That's exactly what happened. Again, the investigation and revelation of the mind. So you see that greed, anger, and delusion has consumed them, and that it won. Greed and fueled by ignorance, it won. Now, if I go to that jail right now and sit this lawyer down and said, "How are you? Ever heard of the Four Noble Truth, counselor?" Huh? Ever heard of Third Noble Truth? First Noble Truth? Second Noble Truth? Desire? And I guarantee you she'll be like, huh? So, and even if she did say, yes, I am informed of the Four Noble Truths, and then my next question would be, well, why did you do it? And whatever the answer is, it was a foolish answer. It was the action. The action spoke it all, and now you cannot justify it, lawyer or not. Doesn't fly. So instant karma, you got 15 months. Even if I was the Buddha, I still can't save you. Okay, so you become more simple, and before you said it, you said, let go of everything. I mean, you've already scanned in your head about everything that you have read, and you came to conclude that, holy crap, letting go of everything is so simple. Have you ever met people and they look like this? And they even look like this when they're older? That's the accumulation of concepts and ideas and standpoint and opinions and stuff like that they've gathered in a lifetime of despair, or it causes despair. And you sit down with one of these old guys, senior citizens, and you get a really passionate one, and he's gonna start ramping about the Vietnam War, ramping about President Nixon, Obama, how George Bush sucks, how everybody sucks, how Biden sucks. They never stop. They're like a nonstop radio, literally a nonstop working radio. And then as a Buddhist, we sit there and we're like, what does this have to do with anything with happiness and the end of suffering? You have to ask yourself that. Uh-huh. Every time when you think you're going to be attached to something, concepts or idea, you have to ask yourself, me attaching to this, is this going to end my suffering? So being Buddhist, a Buddhist practitioner is one who just, what? We live a very simple life. I know. And we don't cling on to the foolishness of the world. And I want you guys to reflect on that when you go home, you turn on the news and you see the foolishness of the world and what the world tries to do to get you to attach onto its subjects and opinions and views and get you to take sides. It gets the unsuspected followers, it gets the unexpected citizens to, who have not guarded their minds. What we teach in Buddhism is to guard your mind constantly, ever vigilant, but it's not so taxing. I know, guys, you're sitting there as a student, you realize, oh my God, everything the Venerable is teaching us to do, it is quite mentally taxing. Remembering the ABC model, remembering that, but you talk to chief of medicine about surgery, it's a piece of cake because if they've practiced for so long. Again, this is mental psychological training of practice, and once it becomes a habit, it's a piece of cake. You get a senior trial lawyer doing their job, a piece of cake, they walk in the park. You get a rookie in there, and they're like, "What? I don't know how to object."
Oh, that makes sense. It's like when I work, when I first started doing what I was doing in sales, my company, and I got my promotion that I got to, and had to learn a new script and learn how to appropriately rebuttal and understand and relate to the consumer and do all these different things. It was very taxing. And I was like, I'll never forget it. I listened to my first phone call that I had when I got promoted, and my microphone was too close to my mouth, and I've been working there for a year, and all of a sudden I had to do something different, and I was like, you could hear it on the recording at work, and I was like, this is kind of embarrassing, this is funny. And now it's like I go in, I sit down, I don't have anything in front of me, I just have a conversation, and then it is what it is, and I do my job, and I like to think I do it pretty successfully, and it's the same thing with everything. People who the one video game that I do enjoy playing is Breath of the Wild, Zelda, and that's something that I put down for a little while to focus on this. But trying to learn all the different buttons and the triggers and everything, it was very difficult at first, and you kind of get used to it, and you're like, okay, well now I know what I'm doing. It's like that for everything. And the nice thing about the CBT specifically is that the book is very, very simple to read. It's a lot of information, very straightforward. And same thing with going through, as you had strongly recommended, getting multiple sources. They all say the same things, they all say it a little bit differently. And it seems like when I went from starting off with Sacred Text, which I really like the Sacred Text website, and going through that, and then reading some of the, just as I progressed through it, and then reading some of the stuff where it just went to, like the Kayas, or that's how it's said. And then it was like very repetitive and almost confusing in a way. It's like, okay, well, Sacred Text made it easier than that, and then going down and then finding this other website, and then even going and referring to one of the books that I have where I just wrote down some stuff, kindness, clarity, and insight. It's like it's dumbing it down and making it easier and easier and easier, which it's good to understand how easy it can be and also how in depth it really is.
I was talking to a Vietnamese monk last night who resides in Thailand. He's a Vietnamese monk from Gia Vinh City, Vietnam. He's been in Thailand for 3 years. He's been a monk for 7 years, same years as I have. I've never met him before until last night. I just got done with my live. He appears, he's asking me questions. But some of these guys I don't know, like if they're picking my brain or they're scanning me to see if whatever. So, I'm like, okay, well, have at it, Venerable. Venerable King, Surya, his Pali name was Surya. And he asked me about what are the qualities of an arahant. So, so in somewhat, so even if I was a saint, I can't tell you that I'm a saint because one who says he's a saint, he's not a saint. But I can tell another monastic I am if I'm an arahant. That's to my discretion or not. But anyways, but usually when monastics ask that type of question, they're trying to go back route to scan you, see if you have a stream entered or not, if you've attained something, right? And I gave him my honest explanation about qualities of a fully enlightened being. And it comes down to this. It comes down that they are so simple, they're just so simple, that even when they go back to the chants, they forget. Remember that? Remember that? Because they don't cling on to it anymore. They've let go of even certain chants, rites and rituals. And they're just moment to moment with the flow of consciousness. Again, and he's in Thailand, so I told him, like, your senior teachers even skip words while they're chanting. And you have to sit there and really think why your senior teachers misses some of these very basic words in basic chants, in homage to the Sangha. And we have Bhikkhu Bodhi that, like I told you last time, it took a good 2 minutes for him to gather the homage to the Buddha. Okay. And then when we profile Venerable Jayasaro, I'm profiling all of these guys the way how they teach, and it's so simple. They live simple, think simple, does everything simple. These are signs of a saint. Because, and then I told him, like, Venerable, uncomplicating things is, and I told him one of our precepts, Supra Meraya Machapamadhatana, where mani sikapatang samadhiyami. And I'm like, you see how you have to remember that? And I'm like, but we know this. We know this in our monastic training, not to touch these things, not to do these things. Now, Bhikkhu Bodhi, when he gives the homage, he does it for the student. Every monk already have homage to the Buddha automatically. We wake up and we're thankful and grateful, and all these things that we teach, we're already operating it automatically, moment to moment. So then when we come back to chant, or when we come back to teach certain things, we forget because we've let go of it. We've already entered into a different highway. It's like, another analogy is like, you're the good driver. What makes you a good and safe driver on the interstate is that, number one, you know your traffic law. After you have studied traffic law, you realize that I am convinced that I should not do this, do that. Just don't cut people off. Don't be an a-hole. Don't speed. You don't do these things. And so therefore you enter a different highway, a different road, a different highway, and you just operate on that platform. You just be a simple driver who drives simply. You yield, you stop at a four-way stop sign, even if there's no one there, you still stop any darn ways, is because you have this mindset already. Is that. Then somewhere down the road, somebody is like, "Hi Heath, how are you?" And then they ask you about, do you remember the state statute about the seatbelt law? And you're like, what? The state statute about the seatbelt law. Yeah, just wear your seatbelt. What's so difficult about that? And the kid try to pick your mind, and the kid try to go, well, I want to know the whole state statutes on it. Well, some monks can recite every single teaching and its source. like Diga Nikaya 5.36, Samayutta Nikaya 3.52, paragraph 4, section 3, commentary that literally like a lawyer. If you read some of the text, just like in the Bible, some people can cite John, Mark, Luke, okay? So I would describe the Arahant as the simple guy that's already, he learned it, he learned the rules, he plays by the rules, and he's now simple. So then when you pick the Arahant's mind, he's like, what? And sometimes you get one that can have both a good memory, and then he's able to cite the statutes, which is, it will fall under chapter 316 of the traffic law book. And the seatbelt law says, yeah, you gotta wear a seatbelt unless a physician says that this is unsafe for you in extreme conditions. Then the kid's like, oh. But then you have people who can cite the statutes but are horrific drivers. They know better, they don't do better.
Yeah.
So how are they a saint? How's that an arahant? Or at least an arahant on the road, right? That means you're clever somebody, you know, clever monk, clever lawyer, but you're still putting yourself in danger, yourself and other people, right? So anyways, again, my point of sharing this story with you is the simplicity of everything. And it is exactly that. And I'm not here to claim I'm a saint, or the way how I teach is indicative, consistent with just not claiming any of that. But you start to live a more simpler life and try to reduce stuff. You know what I mean? Reduce, reuse, recycle in life. Just don't recycle the past.
Yeah.
Just material things, and slowly when you start to, you know, just untangle the tangle, you will see the light at the end of the tunnel somewhere, and you no longer be moved by anything that is on TV. Thanksgiving was this past Friday. TVs are cheap. You see that whiteboard right there? I mean, there's TVs like that for like $1,000, which is a steal. Because literally, but it's made to enslave you.
Yeah.
Holy cow, it's made to enslave you. Literally just couch potato and staring at it, just non-stop feeding of politics, of everything. I don't, I have certain shows that I used to like, and now I'm walking and sometimes I get bored too, and I'm like, I just want my mind to wander around for a little second, and I go on CBS, NBC, you know, and I'm like, what? And then so some of my students are so in tune with their shows, they know what time it is, when it's gonna start, when it's gonna stop,
It
and
used to be like that.
so yeah, so I just hope that you guys are on the right path when it comes to the simplicity of the path to peace and liberation is exactly that. We monks too get our. I mean, I have senior monks that I had one that is. He's literally like. Yeah, he is considered His Holiness. So in the Tibetan tradition, there's multiple His Holiness, which is comparable to New York City's chiefs. You have chiefs and you have super chiefs. So it's funny, like they have different. New York is so small, but it's so big at the same time that you have different precinct police departments, and then they have captains, lieutenants. Then you have a chief that runs that. Yeah, but it doesn't mean he's the actual chief of police. The chief answers to the super chief, or the 2-star answers to the 3-star, the 3-star answers to the 4-star, the 4-star answers to the super chief. Like, it's so complicated, I don't even know. And then the super chief answers to the police commissioners. So anyway, so in the Tibetan tradition, they have a couple of His Holiness, and I'm like, for normal people, they'll be like, well, isn't the one and only His Holiness is the Dalai Lama? No, there's other His Holiness too that is underneath the Dalai Lama and other subsect of, well. So anyway, so we had His Holiness, so that's like really top dog. And he got really passionate about Trump because Trump did something for Vietnamese people, something about immigration. This man done grabbed the microphone and went to Tampa and held a rally. He was gonna go down to Washington D.C. in full robes and just march down there with. And I sat there for a minute and I was just like, even top dogs, top brass, have lost his ways and forgot the basics here. It's no different than the analogy I gave you all about those CBT trained therapists now having to go back to the basics because they simply forget. And mindfulness meditation, mindfulness is that remember to observe how your mind is jumping. And when it jumps to attach onto things, it jumps to just do these foolishness things. And that these are stories meant to inspire you all to be ever vigilant about the trivial things in life that could easily just, that's what they're trying to do, they're like fishing out there, trying to hook you. And they even hook these holinesses that's supposed to set an example for all of us, you know? And so Ajahn Chah said this. Ajahn Chah says, when the teacher misbehaves, and of course, I don't want to throw any names because then, you know, they're going to call me out and be like, you need to come to the council. We need to have a council meeting with you, the Buddhist tribunal. But, so, just, again, simplicity, always simple, 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 simple. Something I wanted to read to you all about the Third Noble Truth here is, so the first one is the disease, the first noble truth, is the truth of suffering. The second one is the diagnosis, the cause of suffering. The third one is the cure. For a cure to work, the patient must have faith in it. This faith is not blind faith, but faith on critical investigation and reason. Critical investigation.
I just read that too last night. It's like, I forget which source it was that I was reading through.
You see that certain keywords jump out. And that's what I wanted, that's what I'm scanning for in the student when I'm assigning homework, is I'm scanning to see how well they pay attention to these keywords. It's no different than lawyers studying law and certain keywords jump out and they're like, I found a loophole.
Oh yeah.
It's like in order to charge someone for murder, they gotta have intent. So you have to prove intent. But it is that word, intent, mens rea, that dings in their head. Clever. The patient must have confidence that the treatment is going to work. The patient must clearly focus on the cure's ultimate goal, which is, in the case of Buddhism, to bring an end to suffering. This includes the suffering of here and now, happiness and good fortune in future lives, and ultimate experience of nirvana. Nirvana is beyond words or description. This part right here, the future life thing. The future life thing. Now, I haven't gone through the 5 hindrances with you all, but there are basically 5 obstructions. You know, laziness is one of them. Doubt is one of them. But look at the doubt, because the doubt is the most pressing one. The doubt's the one that most likely to win. And so we have a lot of people that attack Buddhism. Attack every religion. So Buddhism doesn't. Where the Dhamma thrives and flourish, there will be attacks, a lot of it. Where, you know, just, it is what it is. The true nature of the world and religions. And so there are guys out there, there are pastors, and there are who says, you know, Buddhism asserts that everything is suffering. Wrong. we assert that there is suffering in life, the existence of it, and just the identification and knowledge and awareness of it, so that you prepare yourself what's going to happen next. The Buddha is just letting you know what's going to happen next. Then they said, Buddhism asserts that it takes this lifetime and multiple lifetimes to come in order for you to achieve enlightenment. Wrong. You can be fully enlightened arahant after understanding one sentence uttered by a novice monk, a part-time monk, not even a full-time monk. A novice monk can utter one sentence and you can be fully enlightened. Ding, like that. And so therefore, when we read these in the scriptures, and as you go along Buddhism, down the investigations, somewhere down the line when you hear happiness and good fortune in future lives and the ultimate experience of nirvana. And I'm the only monk that expands on nirvana and talks about sainthood and really like solid on sainthood, solid on arahant, because every other monk seems that they probably have this self-doubt that maybe we shouldn't talk about it because it's a little too far and people are going to take us as a joke and this is not attainable, and like what planet are we on? They're going to look at us like as if we're aliens. But that's not me. And you know, I do a lot of things that other monks don't do. I also teach death meditation, where other monks also believe and perceive that no, we shouldn't teach death meditation because we're going to chase a lot of our followers away because they're going to be afraid of it. Everyone's afraid of death. The perception of death, the understanding that they want to push death away, not we shouldn't invite them towards it.
Isn't that a form of doubt?
Yeah. Well, you go and scan all these monks, they steer away from death meditations. I'm the only one that drags a real life skeleton and stick it in a room and make you look at it. You know what I mean? I'm the only one that does it. Then one has to sit there and scratch. Oh my God, no wonder why he accumulates millions of people. You know, and as a matter of fact, and because of that, it reinforces the quality of my teachings. I mean, had I not have the statistics to back it up, people would probably like, okay, he's talking about nirvana. All right, he's pretty out there. He's probably smoking weed right now. You know? So, okay, so since the third and the fourth noble truth intertwine with each other, and goodness grace, the fourth noble truth, which we did review, right? Minorly? No.
It's the eightfold path.
Huh?
The fourth noble truth?
The Noble Eightfold Path. Did I review with you guys?
A while back.
Yeah.
Well, it's a while back, right?
Yeah.
That was to be, I don't mean to cut you off, but that was something that I know myself, I think you as well, had been continued studying and working on after
The retreat.
the retreat. We continued to focus pretty intently on that. And I mean, that's what like half of this book is.
Right.
But that's also from one source.
So the what time do we have? Oh, we're great on time. Right, view, right, attention. Where's the rest of the others? You know that I don't even remember No Eightfold Path. It's only 8. I'm actually surprised I remember the Noble Truth.
That understanding.
Oh, there it is. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, if someone give me a test on the Noble Eightfold Path, I'd be like, what? It wouldn't be in order, I'll tell you that.
I remembered it in a strange, I guess everybody has their own way of memory, but
It just goes back to the same thing I just said about the traffic law thing.
yeah.
It's just the Noble Eightfold. We live so simple. I think I've lived so simple that I forget everything. not non-attached to everything. It's just clear, evident of that. Um, it's like the key ones that I do remember and teach to people. It's like I choose like the most important, like right speech, that gets you in the world of a trouble. Right livelihood. You gonna go sell drugs, guns, and stuff like that. Engage in human trafficking. You're going down. I mean hard. I mean life for life. Um, and right view. Like those are my three pet peeves. Because if you don't have right view, then everything that thereafter just really doesn't matter. Because everything you've seen through colored lens is already wrong. So what you're gonna think is gonna be wrong, and what you're gonna do is gonna be wrong anyways. You know, those are like my three pet peeves. And then right intention, that's like ding, everyone. Set your intention for the benefit of humanity. I mean, pretty much everything the Dalai Lama has said, dedicate your body, speech, and mind for the benefit of humanity. He summarized the whole Noble Eightfold Path in one sentence.
One sentence, yeah.
You know. So the elements, for example, underneath right action, falls under sila. Actually, the precept, right? Right action is respect for life, respect for property, respect for relationships. Then it actually has, description underneath: respect for life, abstain from taking life, having compassion for the welfare of all living beings. Respect for property, abstain from stealing, taking what is not freely given, not the cleverness of humans, such as finders keepers.
Right.
If I leave my iPad here, finders keepers. So the Buddha gave very specific instructions on if it is not given to you freely, don't touch it, and don't claim that you're out here with a metal detector just because you found someone's diamond ring. You get to pocket it. And how many people do we see that on the beach?
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yeah,
That's so funny. That's really, really funny.
They do that.
Unbelievable. And you see that all the time.
So 2 homeless people a couple days ago found thousands of dollars in a bag and returned it to the rightful owner.
Good. That's awesome.
And you must ask yourself, if you were that homeless and if you found thousands of dollars, what would you find? My uncle, Anthony Wiles, Tyrone Square Mall, in the bathroom, he found a garbage bag full of $100 bills back in 1995.
That's weird.
And he came home and he told us about it. And he's a former military lieutenant, captain actually, airborne. So he ain't lying when he's telling stories. Trust me. He's like, I think somebody robbed a bank or something, and they got away from the police and they ran into the mall and they stashed it there and they forgot about it and they took off. It must have been out of fear. So we were like, okay. And he's leading us on to the story. And we're like, well, what did you do with it? And we're all in our head. We were hoping like he kept it so I can just have $100 in my pocket. I was like 7 years old. And he's like, I returned it to the police. I called the police and I returned it. I was so angry at 7 years old. I was so mad. Because in my head, it was full of greed. Yeah. It was like, damn it, I wanted Pikachu. Right there in the mall. I could have just grabbed that $100 and ran to KB Toys when KB Toys were still around. So
that's interesting. I've lost my wallet a lot,
and
almost every time it has been returned to me, one way or another, with the money, cash that I've had in my wallet still in it. Everything's still in it. So that's interesting. That because I hate to say it, but because that has happened to me in that way, that's why I have tried to maintain that same thought process. Now it's different, but I would say that had those instances where I've lost my wallet at the park and got a phone call from the police saying, hey, we got your wallet here, on more than one occasion, I probably wouldn't have had the same mindset, which also leads me to think about how my uncle, who's passed away, drug overdose, he's robbed a bank more than once. said, it like made the connections in my head for myself personally that I've had something happen to me where I've lost my wallet and it's been returned to me, every dollar in it. And then I've seen the other side of things firsthand, not firsthand, but you know, I've experienced that within my family where somebody's, my uncle, has done a really tragic thing, spent time in prison, and how one extreme to the other all comes down to the middle, I guess the middle way. It's weird how I make weird connections, I guess, I don't know.
Oh, it's not weird. But so, okay, so under respect for property, not taking what is not freely given, taking by force, taking by treachery, respect for relationships, abstain from sexual misconduct, adultery, avoid sexual relationships that bring harm to others, abusing the senses. Then under right livelihood, earning a living that does not violate truth or disrespectful life. That's deep. Well-being, property, and personal relationship of other living beings. That's just summarized human trafficking, gun trafficking, and drug trafficking. Buddha was a very wise man. Already been going on 2,566 years ago. Human trafficking, gun trafficking, trading of arms, and so on. That's why he laid these things out for us, because the Buddha was like, oh damn, look at them. And so he's like, okay. Panatipata Veramani Patang Samadhiyami. So, trading in weapons and instruments for killing. How specific is that? Instruments. So yesterday I bought a spear. Did you know that? That is an instrument for killing. But I bought it for teaching purposes, just like the bow and arrow that's in the class. You guys, you gotta wait till I bring out the death meditation thing again when I use the spear. Because when it comes to death meditation, to fully visualize how close we are to death, it is as if a knife is at your neck. Or the reaper, you know, the guy in all black that's holding the thingy, he's holding that thing to your neck. And he's just following you, silently and invisibly following you with this thing at your neck, and he just waits to and you're dead. So I bought the spear so that Stephen, who I trust with my life, can hold the spear to my neck as I'm doing a TikTok video, and I'm pretty sure when TikTok looks at it, they're like, oh my God, someone call 911, someone's gonna kill him. So the trading in weapons and instruments for killing. Trading in humans, slave trading, and prostitution. Very specific guideline. Animal for slaughter. Trading in intoxicants and addictive drugs. Trading in poison and toxicants designed to kill, like anthrax and cyanide. Damn. When you reflect 2,566 years ago, they were poisoning each other. These were the things that was happening back then. Greed, anger, delusion. That's crazy. So clearly you see that the Noble Eightfold Path is the threefold training lies in the Noble Eightfold Path. It's divided into subgroups, and it all comprises in that. You see the little complicated little map that is here. Okay. So again, for the intelligent student that is clever, would, oh look, finders keepers. But until they see this and they're like, it was not freely given to me. When we go with the most expression of right view is the deep understanding of the Four Noble Truth, understanding the Four Noble Truth in relation to one's own life gives rise to the intention of renunciation, giving up. Understanding them in relation to other being gives rise to compassion. Right understanding and right thought together counteracts the three unwholesome roots, which is greed, anger, and ignorance. That's right view. removal of greed and attachment, concentrating on the unsatisfactory nature of the senses and existence, considering the undesirable consequences of sense pleasure, cultivating thoughts of renunciation and detachment, giving up, removal of anger, recognizing the essential qualities in human beings, respecting that all living beings want to be happy and free of fear, cultivating thoughts of eliminating suffering for all living beings. Fear, let's talk about that. All living beings want to be happy and free of fear. And half the things people do that leads, half the things that people do, they do it out of fear. So therefore we get angry because we don't understand why they do it. So that's another whole psychology of cognitive bias. So later down the road, when the basics are out of the way, we blend neuropsychology, cognitive psychology, and Buddhism together, because that's one emotion that one has to master is fear. Fear of death, fear of fear of a lot of things, fear of being judged, fear of what other people think about us, so on and so on. It's the whole subgroup can of worms with that. Any questions so far?
No.
We're moving along really quick in this. So at this time, 10:21. Let's stretch for a couple minutes and then let's do some meditations. Okay. And everyone else who is watching, y'all just hang out. I'm gonna leave some music here for y'all while we stretch for a couple minutes, and then we're gonna do some meditation. So that'll be y'all treat for y'all.
That's unbelievable. The clouds are moving so quickly.
He gets a kick out of the clouds.
It's so cool.
You flown before?
Yeah.
That's amazing. When you at the when you sit near the window and you're like, oh my god. Did I tell you guys? 2 years ago, I went skydiving twice in an hour.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Just skydiving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looking at the clouds. We fell through the clouds. I fell twice. So talk about death experience.
Bungee jumping once. That's totally different.
Yeah, I can't like let go completely.
Mm.
I was pretty scared when I was skydiving.
Yeah, yeah. I had because I did it because Luke, another one of my students that I watched grow up, I was like, and Luke's like, it's my birthday, I want to go skydiving. And I was like, what? Okay, schedule it. Literally, I didn't even think about it. I was like, schedule it. And then he scheduled it. It was like $140 a person. So my nature's scope was that I wanted to go and investigate my attachment. So I'm going to die. That's the mentality is I jump, I'm going to die. What attachment do I have as I'm falling to my death? That was the hypothesis. So long be known, I get this handsome, muscular, um, Brazilian guy, 7,000 jumps, 400 close calls. He tells me his helmet's like $5,000. It feels like, plastic and fake and cheap. And he tells me that if he ever gets knocked out during the fall, it will trigger the parachute to deploy. And I'm like, great, I didn't really know that. I don't need to know that. But we already have a natural anxiety because you're going to die. Your brain is now triggering the anxiety that crap can go wrong. And he's telling me what could go wrong. So, anyways, so he's like, and then he gave me the stats. He's like, 7,000 jumps. He should have never told me 400 close calls. Because I'm putting all the stats together and I'm like, I may just ask for what I may just get what I'm asking for here. We jump out and he says, it's just the F word like 8 times. And he says, oh shit, like 10 more times in my ear. Like, the instructor's right there. It's like in my ear. So all I'm hearing is the F word and oh shit and F again. And I'm like, oh, great. I guess I'm going to have lunch with the Buddha. I look up and there's the parachute and there's holes in the parachutes. Then he cocks his right leg back and we're spinning in midair and the wind is blowing. And I'm guessing, okay, so he says the F word because there's holes in the parachute. And now the wind is just going to take us where it's going to take us. And now we're spinning, literally, I'm falling to my death. Literally, that was the mentality. Because he's not telling me why he said the F word and the oh shit. Because now I'm thinking I'm the 401 close call. Or that's it, 401 and we're done. Splat. Reporting live CNN. Venerable Dao has died. And it was like the slowest experience of death ever. Because we are still spinning. And I'm like, oh my God, this is getting out of control. So clearly I'm spinning to my death. And there was this pressure in my chest of attachment that, wait a minute, I'm not ready to go yet. I still have my parents and all these attachment came. And I realized in that moment that you are going to take unfavorable rebirth. You're done, dude. Yeah, so you asked for a hypothesis, you got your results. You're done. So we landed safely, and he comes back, and I'm like, praying to God, Jesus, Buddha, Shiva, Allah. And he comes back, he says, you want to go again for free? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, so that happened up there because we didn't get the free fall, the parachute deployed prematurely. I was like, sure, let's go again. And this time, talking about fear, oh my God. And then he's like, 1. That's it. They say 1 and off you go. They don't say 2. I don't remember hearing a 2. And you get the free fall. And that's like the scariest thing ever, right? It's just, there's so much wind, your weight. It's just like, you're going to die again. And I'm like, I'm going to die again. Again. It's like, talking about rebirth. So that was a blast. Twice in 1 hour.
That's awesome.
So, all right. So anyways, so before we go into meditation, I wanted to say 2 things. Number 1, the fact that Stephen's been with me for so long and the fact that I keep on repeating, give more, take less, give more, take less. Somebody had done owe him money, like a lot of money, like $500. For a 20-year-old young man, somebody to owe you $500, what? I'm knocking on somebody's door after teaching meditation and wanting my $500 back. And Stephen says, I'm just going to give it to them. But what he says afterward was the most beautiful thing I ever heard in my life. He says, right? Isn't it what the Buddha taught? Give more, take less. And I was like, I'll be damned. Because a lot of assistant that comes with me, they're somewhere else. Their mind's somewhere else. I mean, clearly he's sitting in the back. He's on the phone. He's chatting. He's on OfferUp. He's on Tinder. Okay, that's what they do. They're the kids. So I don't expect them to absorb what you guys are absorbing because they're just assistant. Some assistant are also student and assistant, but sometimes some of them are not. Some of them fall off the wagon and whatever. Um, and he's really operating on what everything that I have been teaching, and it was just beautiful to see that, that he's, because I know my assistant and their spending behavior and how they clinch on to what the most valuable thing is money, because it's so hard to earn a living. And he was like this with it, and I seen literally a 360 change, like that, just in one teaching. Is in, well, whatever teaching that day that he received that clicked in his mind. Obviously, he had a ding moment. So we're watching Steven change at a very high rate of speed. So I'm measuring Steve, smart kid.
That's awesome.
Second thing is that why do we not meditate right away, or why do you not see a frequency of meditation in here? Is because we got to get the basics out of the way, or this. Because once you close your eyes, a bunch of crap comes up that obstructs your peace. Matter of fact, it makes it worse than before we meditated. Right? Things that happen in the week, and you just don't know what to do with it. And to follow the simple rules or instructions that we have been given as monks, such as, just look at it as traffic. Oh, it's just a river of thoughts, and don't cling on to the thought. You would, what? So you got to have some academic background of what to do with these thoughts. And then it makes the meditative experience easier, I feel, by through my methods. So today, I will let you guys choose loving kindness, mindfulness of the breath. These are the 4 techniques within the mindfulness of breath. Which one would you guys like?
I'll let you pick.
The last one.
Mindfulness of the breath.
The 4 techniques.
Oh, no, it's just the breathing in and breathing. You choose one of the 4 techniques. Do you remember them? Do you remember them? So the 4 techniques fall under mindfulness of the breath.
Is it 1 breath in, 1 breath out, then 2 breath in, 2 breath out?
In breath 1, out breath 1. In
Okay,
breath
so
2, out breath 2.
same.
That's the counting technique.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then toll is one of them?
But toll is the 4th one, yeah. In breath but, out breath toll.
Okay, and then just focusing on your belly falling and rising?
Well, you do that with all of them, actually.
Oh, okay.
That is when things get too intense, or in the middle of your meditation, all of a sudden you start thinking about things and you're living elsewhere besides the present moment. Then you either redirect it back to knowing when it's inflating, deflating, the balloon is rising, the balloon is deflating, the tummy is rising, falling, or you just grab your tummy and realize, oh, I'm back, I'm here, I know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it.
Temperature.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that I like to do is deep breath in, know that I'm breathing in.
Right. So that's the first and the
Yeah.
third. Right. Guarantee you, I may forget the Four Noble Truth or other aspect, but meditation techniques, never forget them, because those are your emergency medicine. Those are so good. So at this time, I'm gonna put the chants on, and you guys just focus on your breath, and you choose whichever. You can actually interchange them too during meditation. Later, the coolest part is that after all of this is done and it's moving really fast, we may even go into Vipassana, the start of Vipassana next week, because that will help me with Vipassana. It's only 10:35. Oh my God. The mindfulness, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. and studying its academics, and then slowly meditating on each single one. And that the insight meditation, the vipassana, is designed for you to see everything that we have been studying directly, like instant results. It's designed that way, and it's very simple. But again, with the academics, got to be out of the way before we go into it. So at this time, we get into our meditation posture. Back straight, shoulders relaxed. Relaxing all of the muscles in our face, on our face. After your 3 deep breaths, your mind should be calm. And we enter into mindfulness of the breath as you choose your favorite techniques. I will be putting some Pali so that you remind yourselves that we are in active meditation session. When the music slowly dies down or comes to a halt, you will then arise from your meditation. Buddhaṃ saranam gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saranam gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saranam gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saranam gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saranam gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Sanghaṃ saranam gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saranam gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saranam gacchāmi, Tatiyampi At this time, you can relax your concentration. And when you're ready, you can arise from your meditation. Refreshing, necessary, vital. through our practice. The music just makes everything so much better. You know, in Christianity, they have a lot of music. In Christianity, I mean, really uplifting music. And in Buddhism, we don't have that much. We should. Hopefully, somewhere down the road, people start um, making a lot of Buddhist music and its meaning behind it. But for the Theravadins, we have these chants that are, it takes you to a place. So, you know, he gave the homage to the Buddha, the triple gem, and then you hear the precepts. And then followed by the 9 qualities of the Buddha, the iti piso bhagawa. And, you know, at night nowadays, because I stay up late at night reflecting and writing, and admittedly, some things can get intense in my mind, reflecting on students' lives and what's happening, what's unfolding. For the rest of the world, they're up, you know, they're like, gotta wake up, go to work, cook. I sit there and I actually have to do risk assessments on local students that are, you know, like I got one student last night. I gave 4 consecutive talks in 3 hours, from 7 to like 10. Gave like 4 talks. The first one being that I hope that the students don't act out that I think that they could possibly do, the potential and likely chance, the opportunity to do it with their unruly parents. Some parents really behave like the animal realm at home. They know how to push their kids' button, and the kids, this particular student has capacity to do a lot of harm just because of his muscle size. I mean, talk about the Hulk. This is the Hulk. Okay? And skillful teachers are trained to look into their eyes to see the level of aversion that they have and the potential likely chance that they're going to break, explode, literally, beach ball effect, and the barometer exploding. Yeah. Weapon of mass destruction, pretty much. And so, so I go through a certain type of hell as a teacher, doing risk assessments on students that I think may or may not, you know, and the timeliness of my text messages, and the timeliness of intervention, and the timeliness of doing talks and then copying that. So I give the public talk on social media, and then I send them the link so that they can watch it, and they realize that, you know, he's broadcasting this for everyone and not just me, and I don't feel like I'm the only one being targeted here by the venerable. And when things, there are times I've wanted to give up in my own little room. There's times where I'm just like, I just want to resign. There's times where I feel like I'm insignificant. There's just so many things that comes at teachers saving the world, literally. And so when I come across these chants, I'm literally blasting the music in the room as if young people are blasting music in their car. I'm living it. So I have these speakers in the room. One thing about me is the speakers in the room, surround sound. And then I meditate to it. And when he's chanting the way that he does, this monk, my God, it's like, it puts you into a realm of literally the realm of the saints. It puts you there. And, you know, I just bliss out and I meditate, and I realize I'm in the clouds.
Yeah.
The clouds amongst the saints in the clouds. And then when it gets that intense, I realize I'm too attached to the external world and the karma that my students have found themselves in. And it's beyond my control. I mean, if they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it. Whatever it is they're gonna do. No matter how many talks I give, or how many chants I give, or I do the chant on the parita, on the protection. It is what it is. But yeah, I find it very comforting when we adopt You put Theravada chants into YouTube, it's gonna show up all sorts of different types of chants. And it's meant to just numb you for a second and bring you back to our practice, into the meaning of the words, the meaning of the precepts, the meaning of the triple gem, the refuge where it holds dearly at home within. So now it's going to be a treat for you and for all every time when we meditate. You know, I find for beginning meditators, you all need some music anyways. It's because it's treacherous without music in a room with no Wi-Fi. Well, it is Wi-Fi, but you're not playing with your phone. You guys do a lot of respectful things, by the way, as dedicated, committed students, because, and I'm glad I have a few sitting in front of me and not a room full of people, because there's people that fall asleep, people play with their phones, there are people who I can tell are not paying attention, their eyes are everywhere.
This is voluntary. What?
Correct. So I don't. So sometimes I'm looking around a room full of people, and I'm just like, I don't understand why they're here. You guys have done a lot of respectful things, such as not playing with the phones, taking notes, doing the homework assignments. In a few pictures, when we were taking group pictures, you both voluntarily took the floor and kneeled down. Those are. If we were traveling together to other monasteries or something like that, these are traits that other monks are looking at to judge the teacher and his students and what his students are doing right, particularly Western students. How they pay respect to that teacher, how they pay respect to the Buddha, and how humble they are. And it shows humbleness. And when the last time when Brenda was here and we took, it was a magnificent picture because of the sun was in the back, shining through the leaves downwards. It was as if Nirvana is choosing us, the light of all lights. And then you both voluntarily, I told everyone to squeeze in, and everyone was standing. Brenda's husband was a hoot because he was back there just chilling like this. You know, the one that stands out would be Brenda's husband. No surprise. It makes us laugh. I like him. And so you both took kneeling down with your hands together. So I'm very impressed. I didn't tell you guys that. And again, because I cater to American students, they also know but they are impressed when these things are unfolding. But if it doesn't unfold the way they want it to, they realize, oh, they're just white American students. They wouldn't know our customs and culture and traditions, and so on. And likewise, paying respect before and after Dhamma talks too, are key traits of showing respect. And when people are paying respect to us, the focus is on the robes. The focus is not on the particular monk, because the monk can misbehave or not live a righteous and holy life. But the respect is towards the meaning of the Sangha. That's what they're bowing to, and so the Buddha lives by and through us, all of our practices and teachings. So I just wanted to have that closing remarks, so that you all are aware that all of your actions, intentions, manifestation, and body language is being noticed. And sometimes I just pretend like I don't notice, but I notice every single thing about a student. But the most important thing that I notice is not that. It's not the kneeling, it's not the respect. It's how well you pay attention to these teachings and how well you apply to them actively, moment to moment, day-to-day basis. And the dedication to remembering them. The remembering thing is very important. Then after you don't remember them anymore is when I realized you'll have started entering the certain streams. Like I have. Oops, I shouldn't say that. Traits such as indicative of certain across comparisons of other senior monks that have. So they're just good guesses, calculated guesses. So you do your homework, and then later on, when you forget, that's when we teachers kind of like, There's a possibility that they have entered the stream. Um, and you will know it. It's a different type of silence we share when once you've entered the stream. It's a different feeling and it's a different tone. It's a different atmosphere and it's a different energy once you've started to climb the ladder of so stream entry, once returner, no returner, and arahant. Trust me, it's no different when you guys missed when Varapanyo was here and the energy of monks sitting together and the way how we look at each other, you just know that certain type of, or you remember Venerable Chittanang, how he was actively listening to me and how he acknowledges everything I said. His body language was this. It was very humble. Then when I gave the envelopes out to them, you watch how they respond when the envelopes are being given, and you realize how humble they are. The practice of the non-self. If you were to go, if you were to judge, evaluate, or assess, that's when the students pay really close attention to what's happening when monks are interacting and talking, or when a monk is giving an offering to another monk, when he's sharing his merits, when he's doing good deeds, and you watch the other monks. Some actually takes the envelope and just stick it in here right away. So some of them are they're really shocked. Some of them immediately reciprocate. You know, so yeah, it's a one day when Venerable Adrian comes down here from Guam. Venerable Duc Minh from Vietnam, he's scheduled to come to Canada and stop by here. And hopefully Venerable Varapanyo, I don't know, he's all over the place in the world. Hopefully he comes back here. But Varapanyo, when he gives guided meditation, it's profound. It's one of the best ever experienced, in my opinion. But so, keep up the good work, as always, yeah? I'm very proud of you guys. You guys are moving, my goodness, chapter 7. When I assign and then a month later goes by and the student's like, I'm on chapter 3, that's when I really want to resign. I'm just like, okay, I think I'm gonna hang this back up on the in the closet. Grab my court clothes back and go back and work in the courtroom. But to excel this fast, you guys are also inspiring other people who are watching this. And like last night, a student reached out, multiple students reached out over the past week about CBT. So I'm pretty sure they're watching and they're very inspired by your progress and by your reports and by your understanding and comprehension. Basically, you were professors in the moments that you were talking, and I'm just a student. And I take that position freely, voluntarily, and happily because I have to review it when I get back home. I don't remember it anymore. But once the keynotes hit, and I'm like, they got it, you know? So you guys are contributing in that way, and in that way alone. So we're gonna wrap up at 11 a.m. Have you guys, I don't know what you guys' plans are, but I actually plan to go back to Venerable Chittanang on this Sunday because they have the vegetarian festival over there, where you can actually experience their food. What we missed last time, because I miscalculated the Sunday for the Saturday and went on the Saturday instead of the Sunday. So we got to talk and sit there and hang out, but we missed the food. So I haven't got to spend time with him, nor experience the crowdedness of the people. And so if you guys wanted to join me over there after this, you guys can, to just get a feel of, whoa, this is what the vegetarian festival is like every Sunday here at the Watt in Tampa.
Yeah, if you want to do that, I'd love to.
Okay, so let's wrap up so we can fly over there. Yatha Varivaha Pura Pari Purantisa Karang Evo Mewa Ito Dinang Peta Nang Upagapati Ichitang Patitang Tumhang Kipamea Wasamechatu Sape Purantu Sankapa Chando Panyaraso Yatha Manijo Deraso Yatha sa pi ti yo vivan chan tu sa paro ko vina satuma te fawan tuan tarayo suki e ha yuko bawa abiwan dan si le sani chang buta bachanino chataro thamma wata di ayuano sokang palang bawat sa pamangkalang rakan tu sa padewata sa babuta nufa wen sada soti bawan tu te bawat sa pamangkalang rakan tu sa padewata sa pasangka nufa wen sada soti bawan tu te. May you be well, be happy, be free, and always be healthy. May you be healed, be a source of healing for other people. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. As you all remember Venerable Chittanang, when we come to the blessing verse, I handed the honor to him, and he is so. Thai monks, when they give the blessing verse, it arrests the whole room. It detains the whole room when they do it. You remember how he did it? Like he got into his mode, and he's like, Yatha varivaha purapari puretisa karang. Evo mewa ito dinang petanang upakapati. Ichitang patitang tumhang kipame wasame chatu. Sabbe purentu sankapachando. Panyaraso yatha manijo teraso yatha. It was PhD level. It was a masterpiece. It really is. I'm just like a deflating balloon when I do it. Just so every time when he's around, and I may ask him to do the same, because every time when I see him, I always have a gift for him. It makes him happy. And so I may ask him to do it again and just wait for it. Just wait for it. I always get a kick out of it. It's like a drill sergeant, but with a soft blessing verse. But it's just so awesome when he does it. So at this time, we're gonna end all of the social medias. We're gonna go to the Watt in Tampa. If you have your iPhone, you can put Watt Tampa, and it should. Oh, you just follow me. Oh my God! The whole time the red account wasn't even on. Whatever.
What? No CBT, but other than that, what's the?
Oh, what is your homework? Continue with the CBT. We want to finish the darn thing, and then review the Noble Eightfold Path in details, and then educate me on it because I forgot about it.
Oh.
I only gave you half of what I was supposed to go over. But sometimes I reserve the right to pretend like I'm pretending to forget. You don't ever know that if a teacher's actually forgetful or they're testing you or not.
You know, I had a teacher, he was my 7th and 8th grade teacher. His name is Mr. Tagney. I'll never forget, one of the best education teachers I've ever had. He was a Green Beret. And I remember once he said,